And God said, "Let there be
The
light."
Lord says, "Let my people go."
I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
This is the Talkin Bible podcast.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another week of Talkin Bible. Another day. It's only the beginning of the week. This is episode 2 of this week. Another day of Talkin Bible with Jeff Baxter. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Rowan. Yep.
John 8.
John 8, yep.
12 to 20. I was just saying in between a little moment there that I've been spending a lot of time in John 7 and John 8 lately doing my master's essays, but I haven't actually spent a lot of time in John 8, 12 to 20, although I know the context.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that one.
John's pretty cool, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, I'm getting more and more fascinated and equally confused about John at the same time.
Well,
the more I get into John, the more I realise how little I know about John's gospel.
Lots of great scholars have written lots of great books about it.
I actually find it one of the most fascinating, but actually confusing. Like, I'm thinking, I'm not sure. Part of me wants to dig more into John, and part of me is going, I don't think I could be a Johannine scholar. It's too complex. It's too much confusion. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are much more simple than John.
Yep.
Yes, anyway.
Okay, so let's kick off with this. This is Jesus speaking to some people. And he says, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Light of the world. That's a big statement.
It's a massive statement.
It's a massive statement.
Especially in the context of who he's saying it to and where he's saying it.
Exactly.
Huge.
Yeah. Yep.
I would say so much as to say it's a statement of divinity is what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. But at this stage, Jesus is just kind of starting to peel back the curtain, I suppose, isn't he? And just sort of starting to let people know who he is.
Yes, yeah. These chapters through about John 7 through to about John 10, Jesus gets into numbers of conversations with people who are accusing him or saying he's making false accusations or questioning his identity and his authority. Mm-hmm. And so he uses a number of statements to intentionally lift the bar on the claims he makes about himself.
Yeah. Get the people to think about the scriptures that they already know.
That's right. He's trying to say, look, guys, it's all written there anyway.
Yep,
definitely.
So I wanted to just turn quickly to Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 18.
Oh, he's even got it marked ready to go in his Bible.
Got it marked ready.
I like it. Bookmarks.
Pretty clever, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. So it says this, the path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. Mm. We quite often you hear Jesus spoken of as the bright morning.
The morning star. We're going to do that in one of these episodes this week. Yes,
but this is kind of so. When I read this, that whole idea of being light of the world, and the morning sun shines ever brighter. So it just kind of got me thinking that this is what Jesus is doing. He's just shining a little bit of light. Yep. And as we go on, it's going to get brighter and brighter. I
like that. Yeah, just like full day. So
noonday sun.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, I like that.
Yeah,
that's what Jesus is doing here. He's gradually increasing the light.
Yeah,
yeah.
Don't you love the poetry of these
Proverbs?
These guys.
Psalms, yeah.
And when you stop it, you can read through that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, whatever.
But stop and think about it.
Picture it.
Oh my goodness.
Picture standing by the beach in the morning and watching the sun come up and get brighter and brighter and brighter until you can't look at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. That's so good. I like that.
It's great. Anyway, he says he's the light of the world. And if we just go back to chapter 7 in John and verse 37. Where are we? Jesus is speaking to people again. He says, let anyone who is thirsty come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me, as Scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them. Mm. So once again, it's one of these statements that he's getting people to scratch their heads going, what's this guy talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, well, the context is really important, Jeff. So both this statement, the John 8 statement about the light of the world and the John 7 statement about the rivers of living water, the water of life, the living water, are both made at the Feast of Tabernacles. And both of those statements are directly referencing a significant event that takes place at the Feast of Tabernacles.
Okay,
the Feast of Tabernacles celebrates God's deliverance from Egypt and his provision and protection for them in the desert. That's why they live in the Feast of Tabernacles. They live in like ready-made tents, kind of with thatched roofs and so on, to remind them of that journey. And it's the most celebratory celebration of all of the feasts. And in the temple courts, they had 4 or 6, I can't remember exactly, 4 or 6 massive, like 20-meter high torches, poles that they'd set up in the temple courts. And junior priests would climb up the ladder to light the oil in these. And the parties went on all night long. And so these massive lights, it's like floodlights, think of it like floodlights at a sporting game at night. That's how much it lit up the temple courts, allowed the party to go on all night. And that was symbolic, those lights were symbolic of the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire that protected them, the light that protected them in the wilderness.
Yep.
And the scriptures, they knew that the scriptures were that Jesus, that God was that. The angel of the Lord was in that pillar of fire. So for Jesus to say, hey, that's not the light, pointing up at right there at the tower right beside him, say, I'm the light of the world.
Boy.
They knew. They would have had to wrestle with the fact that he's making a very bold claim. He's basically saying, I'm God because I'm actually the true light of the world. And in John 7, I always say rivers of living water, the rivers of living water, that's a direct application of a particular feast they did on the last and the greatest day of the feast, where they would pour this water out as a symbolic thing about, it came from the picture of God providing water for them in the wilderness. Mm-hmm. So once again, he's going, I'm actually the one that points to, that ritual isn't it, that's me. If you want water, come to me. Yeah. So these are both bold, courageous, messianic claims of divinity here that Jesus says. And as we see, it doesn't always go down well with people, but he doesn't hold back.
Well, he doesn't hold back. It's. I can just imagine myself being in that crowd, even if I was a Pharisee or a Sadducee or whatever there, saying, what is this guy doing here?
Yes.
Like, he's being so bold here. Like, is there something in this? Surely he's not trying to get us to just lop his head off or something. Like,
yeah, well, they were threatened by it because I think the nuance that I just explained, they have that loaded up already. They know those statements. So when Jesus makes these statements, they're not going, what does he mean? They know what he's claiming. And that's why they go into this passage and say, you're not claiming things that are even valid. Your testimony is invalid. You're making these claims about yourself because they're questioning his authority to make these claims.
Yeah, that's right. And then in verse 14, Jesus says, even if I testify on my own behalf, my testimony is valid. So he's basically saying, look, I'm telling the truth and I know where I came from and where I'm going, but you have got no idea where I come from and where I'm going. Once again, these guys must have been thinking, well, hopefully they were, I guess because they were trying to keep up their public appearance, they'll probably say, no, this is terrible what you're doing, but hopefully
it was going in.
When they went home that night, they're thinking, what's this guy talking about,
Well, and we know that some did because by the time you get to the early church, there are some Pharisees. There's a whole sect of them who are Christians. So we shouldn't automatically assume that every Pharisee denied Jesus. There was, and John's gospel is amping up he's really focusing in on the rejection of Jesus by the authorities because he has a purpose to do that. It's beyond it's to do with who he's writing to, really. He really wanted to show that the Jews, the Jewish Christians he was writing to in Ephesus were suffering persecution, and he was trying to say, look, Jesus has suffered persecution from the Jews too. Hang on to the truth. So he's really amping up this persecution thing and saying this is the true Jesus. This is the one you should hang on to. He's the light, not the Jewish law, not the Jews that are persecuting you, telling you to come back to synagogue. Hang on to Jesus. He's the light of the world.
I love this statement. He says to them, you judge by human standards. I pass judgment on no one. Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
That Jesus, who had more right than anyone to pass judgment, doesn't pass judgment.
Go back to John chapter 8, 1-11. What was the story? You just read the heading and see what happens. Immediately before this story, what does it say?
This is the one that's part of it's not.
Yeah, it's not part of it's not in the original text. But what's the story?
Jesus went to the Mount of Olives.
Yep, go verse 2. Verse 2 of John 8.
He appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered.
Yep, verse 3.
The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. Okay.
Okay. So immediately before this
he doesn't judge.
is a story of Jesus not judging.
Yep.
And that's why I actually think that story's been inserted there, because Jesus is making a claim. And what Jesus is saying in that story is, I actually do have the right to judge. I'm the only one who has the right to judge this woman. But I didn't come to judge the world. I came to save the world.
Yep.
And that's what Jesus is making here.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yep.
So once again, it's a claim to his divinity. I'm the one. You guys think you can be the judge? No, I'm saying I'm the judge, but I'm not waving my judginess around. I've actually come to rescue the world from my judgment, not bring it under my judgment.
And he goes on to say, I stand with the Father. It's interesting that he's not saying my Father here. He's saying the Father. So they know.
Your Father.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not your Father, it's the Father.
The Father.
The
Yeah.
Father and-
He's your Father too, as well as my Father. He's actually all our fathers. Yep.
Okay, so what I kind of, once again, I feel like Jesus is poking the bear a bit
Oh,
here,
yes.
just sort of getting these guys all riled up. But
Intentionally, though.
yeah, intentionally.
Yeah.
But I guess they didn't realise what Jesus was doing, what he was saying. I think I really think. Well, I guess I can only speak for myself, but I would have been listening to this guy going, I've really got to find out a bit more about this, like some of the Pharisees did.
Yeah,
like you talked
some
about,
did. Yeah,
you know.
yeah, and many people in the crowd believed in him.
Yep.
Not all, but many did, and that's what John says in this story. These stories through these 4 chapters here, is that it's really Jesus sorting the wheat from the chaff. His teaching is hard, but it's incredibly revelatory, and he's saying, "This is who I am. Come follow me.
Yep.
I'm the bread of life. I'm the river of life," and so on.
And the way when Jesus speaks to these guys, he kind of doesn't just spell it out for them, does he? He gives them things to think about, because these guys, their whole life was thinking and learning and growing and understanding. That's what they spent their whole life doing,
analysing.
basically.
Yeah. And in the process of that,
philosophy and
they got so deep that they missed the you can't see the forest for the trees. That's what they missed.
Yeah.
They missed the essentials because they got so weighed down in the nitty-gritty.
Yep.
And didn't come up that level and go, well, could this Jesus be what? Could this be what all these things we spend our time studying are talking and pointing to?
Yep.
This man.
I like what you said there. They get bogged down in the nitty-gritty. That's something that I've been thinking a bit about lately, and talking to some of the boys in the Bible study, that we've been looking through some of Jesus' parables this year, and you can really try to put stuff into those parables that isn't necessarily there. You can really go deep into it, but I think sometimes it's better to just take a step back and just have that simple sort of faith that Jesus is a great God, and I love him, and I just want to serve him and love people. Or we can get bogged down, like you said, in all the nitty-gritties.
What does this mean and what does that mean? And I don't think,
mean?
generally speaking, the principle of parables, that's not the way to read them anyway.
No.
Usually they're making one point, more often than not, maybe 2 at the most.
Yeah. And quite often we'll start saying, oh, yeah, but why did this guy do that? And why wouldn't he have done it this way? And then someone will go, this is just a parable.
That's a parable. It's a story.
It's a story.
Yeah.
The guy didn't actually exist.
Yeah, that's right. You get so absorbed into it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
What's the one point Jesus was making? That's always the way about the Pharisees.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll tell you what the point is, and other times you've got to work it out.
Yeah.
But there's usually one point. But that's right. We can get buried in deep. And I'm all for deep study as long as we keep it Christ-centric. We have the benefit this side of the cross of looking back and going, how does this passage teach me about Jesus? Let's keep him in the middle of the mix.
Yep.
How does it teach me about him and about the way I am supposed to live for him?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I'm all for deep study as well, but I think you've got to remember there's times for deep study and time for basic Christian principles to come to the fore, depending on who you're with. And
well, you can get too deep in your study and you can talk yourself out of the supernatural. We talked about in the last episode with the Sadducees, you can actually become a liberal Christian. You can not believe in the spiritual realm. You can become it just seems like it's a good common sense book. And we miss this supernatural being, Jesus, who is at the center of this book. Yeah. We've got to watch that.
Right.
And that's relational. The scriptures, Jesus says, probably in these passages in John, he says, you study the scriptures because you think that by them you possess eternal life. But these are the very scriptures that speak about me. I think it's probably John 9, actually. These are the very scriptures that speak about me. And yet you refuse to come to me and have life. Yeah. So they fell into the trap of thinking the answer was in the Bible, rather than saying the Bible is the signpost that points to him. Yeah. He's the source of the life, but not studying the word in itself is not the source of life. Mm. And as a Bible student, I have to watch that myself because that's my proclivity. I love going down rabbit holes. Yeah, I wonder what that means. But I've just got to always remind myself, hey, this is pointing to Jesus. Let's keep him in the middle of my study.
Yep, that's good. All right. That's
All right
a good
then.
way to end up today.
Excellent. All right then.
Keep your
Thanks,
eyes on
everyone.
Jesus.
Yeah, focus on Jesus, find him in the Word, and then look to him and relate to him.
Exactly.
Excellent. Thanks,
stuff.
Jeff. Thanks,
Okay.
everyone. See you next time.
Okay.